Hello the internet and welcome back to the live stream. It is Saturday the 2nd of May 2020 and today I will be live for 101 minutes. Does anybody know how to stop this? When I set my monitor here to watch the stream, I always turn the phone volume all the way down, right? Always turn it down. I even turn the ringer to off. Yet every single time the stream starts, it comes on with audio. So it sits on that placeholder and then the stream begins and there's audio there. And I'm like, I turned it all the way I physically turned the dial all the way to the bottom. I don't know how to fix that. If anybody has a tip, I would love to know. It's good to have a stream playing in the background so that you can keep an eye on things and make sure things are running accordingly. But if it comes up with audio, that's not cool. I don't know how to fix that. We'll put that back for the time being. I need to have a button that you can just go, don't play any audio on that machine, don't play any audio on the iPhone. But that's what I thought the rocker button did. Let's have a look at the chit chat because that's the point of a live stream, is it not? I see myself and Mindy up there chatting earlier in the stream or in the live chat. Mindy and myself. She's on vacation officially, and I know she's been hanging for this, like dying for this vacation. She's been talking about this for some time. Wasn't sure what would happen with COVID-19, how things would roll out. Looks like everything's okay. She's good to travel. She's going to the hot springs in Colorado. And I'm a little jealous of that, to be honest. I'm feeling a little bit down today, a little bit under the weather. Now, a couple of things might be leading towards that. First of all, the temperature has been really quite cold here for autumn. Yesterday we had a top of 13 Celsius. Now I don't have Siri like I do here on DLive, but I can ask Siri what that is. Hey Siri, what's 13 Celsius in Fahrenheit?
13 degrees Celsius is 55.4 degrees Fahrenheit.
You may have been able to hear her in the distance, 55 Fahrenheit. So that's not cold in terms of winter, but it's autumn in Australia. And I'm spending a good portion of that day in the water surfing and also walking a 3-kilometer walk in very large winds. I feel like I'm getting a cold. A waiver day began yesterday, and today it's even colder and even windier, and I've got to do that same walk after this stream, but the conditions are on fire today. The swell is from the northeast, 1.5 meter swell. The wind, unfortunately, the wind is near gale force. By midday, it's going to be gale force offshore westerlies. Going to be hardcore. I've got a clip to run for you in a little while, the super quick wave a day, and I've also got a slightly random daily song. But from now on, there will be, not here, well, there will be daily surfing content here, a wave a day style, but there'll also be daily clips on the DLive, the super quick wave a day edits, and I'll run the first one for you here. So that's why I said I feel like I need a hot spring, right? I need to go to the Colorado hot springs because I feel like I'm just about to either get sick or not get sick. You know, I'm teetering on the edge. Now, I don't think there'll be anything COVID related for my illness. I feel like it's just a regulation sickness, to be honest. Olivia, that's Chin Marie. Olivia Mason, hello Chin Marie. How do you do? Nice to see you up there in the chit chats. Tim Arkskog says, hi, is this the right place for an argument? What do you want to argue about, Tim? I'm down for an argument on a Saturday morning. What's on your mind, buddy? Shiloh Rose! See? I'm not feeling it, right? I'm not feeling it. I couldn't hold that freaking note. Shiloh Rose, Tim, Hendrik. Hendrik's up in the chit chat. Morning. Holy shit. Hendrik, wait a second. Are you still up from last night? You haven't gone to bed yet, have you? That's why you're here. This is way too early for you, Hendrik. That's pretty funny. Charlotte Rose, it's cold as fuck here at the moment. There's been a snap cold, right? See, I'm not as far south as Charlotte is, and if you're in the southern hemisphere, this is for Chin Marie's sake, everything's flipped, right? So in the northern, well, if you're north of the equator, the further north you go, the colder it gets, right? So all your cold weather comes from the north. It's the complete opposite. All of our warm weather comes from the north, and all of our cold weather comes from the south. So the further you head south geographically on this big upside down continent called Australia, which doesn't exist according to the flat earthers, but the further you go south, the colder you get. So I'm not that far south. I'm not north, but Charlotte's even further south, and Hendrick's even further south. Well, it's hard to explain, but they're both freaking cold right now. Mind you, Charlotte Rose is cold all freaking year around. But what temperature have you got there this morning, Charlotte? I'm curious to know. Tim Arskog, it's an Apple product. You can't expect it to work logically. What are we talking about there? What's the Apple product that's not working logically? Olivia Mason with the... Ooh, got a cocktail there. Is that a cocktail or a wine in that glass? I'm jealous. I've got a glass of water. Does that count? I hope it counts. What are you drinking, by the way, if that's a cocktail? Hendrik says, morning all. Morning, Hendrik. Morning, Hendrik. Tim Arskog. Hi, Hendrik. Charlotte Rose. Hey, Tim. Charlotte Rose is cold as fuck. I went to the hot springs in Aspen back in 99. I was in the emergency later. I got bit by a scorpion. Hey, there's a super chat with no notification.
Steak?
Money's too tight for steak.
Steak?
Don't you go getting yourself sick.
I saw that on the screen. What the? How late was that notification noise? Sin's Fun Factory with $10. Don't you go getting yourself sick. Sin, thank you so much for the support, dude. Much appreciated. Let me know if you heard that. I'm hopeful you did hear that. I've made a small change in OBS. I've selected a checkbox which allows OBS to control the audio coming in from a URL, which is kind of unique. That's a new feature, or newish. I've not seen it before. Now, I don't think that's going to help I know my end piece never comes up with audio, and I've kind of got to work out why that is, but this should fix that, hopefully. Oh, Hendrik, Tim, you're talking about my phone as an Apple product, so it doesn't work logically. Okay, I gotcha. You need a hot herbal tea, Benon. You know what? Maybe I'll go ahead and get a tea on the break, on the first break. We've got enough. Yeah, we've got enough time for the first. That's a good idea. I'll get myself a What should I get? Like a cinnamon tea or something? So Hendrik, yep, I'm still up. There you go, folks. I knew it, Hendrik. You're still up from last night. Classic. Hendrik Ski, yeah. Perd Beer up in the chit chat. G'day, Perdski. How you doing, man? Tetris Freak as well. What? We got the whole crew here. Tetris Freak, yeah. Epic notification lag. Did you hear it though? It did play, right? You did hear it. I heard it and I saw it, but there was a big lag there. Yes, Perd Beer says either yes, he heard it. You got 7 or 8 degrees last night. Wow, that's cold. I have some orange spice tea in the cupboard. Interesting. Orange spice tea, is that what you recommend I should get? D-Live on the YouTube. Wow, mayonnaise. Wow. Something with some citrus. Okay. I could do like a black tea with some lemon or something drizzled in it. Something with some citrus. Tim says cold enough to be a 2-woman night or just the one, Charlotte Rose. Oh shit. Do we have to switch to X-Tag? Wrong platform. Well, folks, that's the bottom of the chit chat. So let's bring that up on screen so we can all play along. I tell you, it's been an interesting time with this COVID-19. The content of this stream is going to be a insider's perspective from on board a ship. Now, we're going to get into that after the first break here, but what I want to preface this with, we've been hearing a lot of drama definitely from the Australian waters. So for those that didn't know, I mean, the Australians in the chat will know, and the ring-ins, Charla. But for those that don't know, we had a lot of problems with cruise liners, in particular one cruise liner, which was somehow, no one really knows how or why this happened, but for someone messed up and the cruise liner was allowed to dock on our shores and the passengers were allowed to leave the ship and infiltrate regular society without a check. And I think there were 14 deaths of COVID-19 linked back to that ship from those passengers and crew that were allowed to disembark and just go about their regular day. This is while the thing was kicking off. So our government completely messed that shit up. and there's now a coronial inquiry into how that all went down. The ship didn't want to leave Australia. Now, I don't understand maritime law, and I don't profess to. The gentleman that we're going to look at does know that, but he doesn't really talk about that Australian angle of it. But I understand if a ship's in distress and it's within our waters, we legally are obliged to take care of it. And so, on the one hand, we had our government saying, yeah, we messed up. We let those crew and those passengers off, and now we've locked it off and no one's getting off. And by the way, we want you to fuck off, basically. We don't want you here. Whereas the ship's like, no, we're not leaving because we're in distress. We got COVID-19 on board this ship. We're not leaving in case we need medical supplies. You're legally obliged to help us. We're in your waters. So that was this big thing where the ship just wouldn't leave. And our government was like, you got to leave. We're demanding you leave. And they're like, well, we're not leaving. Then there was an argy-bargy back and forth. And they ended up bringing the ship down this way to a port not far from here, Port Kembla. Of course, the community there was like, what the hell are you doing? Why would you bring this virus-laden ship right into our port and lock it there? Like, it's in lockdown, but the virus doesn't have borders, right? The virus can jump across if something happens, and it can do that. It can do that. It's not going to obey the police line. So there was this big kerfuffle. And the point of this is that ships, as we all know, they're a harvesting place for bacteria and for viruses, not always COVID-19, not always a coronavirus, but if you're on board a shipboat and you get a flu, more than likely you're going to pass that on to the other passengers, right? It's a cesspool of illness because you're contained. It's kind of like the ideal breeding ground. Anyway, we're going to hear from a gentleman by the name of Alfie Smith, who is a crew member on board a ship. He's actually a bridge member. They call them the bridge, right? So these are the dudes that drive the. Can you believe that on these massive ships, right? They're as big as 12 different football fields tied together. There's one dude at the top in the bridge with a freaking steering wheel driving that thing, right? And he's got a whole bunch of crew behind him, officers they call them. Alfie is a second officer on board one of these ships. Now, I had the pleasure of meeting him back in the day when I was on board Danny Black's cruise with Danny. Danny knew Alfie from a previous couple of cruises, and he introduced me. And Alfie and I, he's a real nice guy, a real genuine guy. And I interviewed him. There's a couple of clips I want to play you of me talking to Alfie and just sort of starting the conversation, if you like. And then we're going to play Alfie's clips because Alfie has a channel. It's called Same Ship, Different Day, which I think is brilliant. Now, I just want to also let you know that name was come up between myself and Danny when Alfie suggested he wanted to start a YouTube channel. I was like, dude, you got great content here. As long as, because he was working for P&O at the time, as long as P&O are good with you, like creating content, in your uniform on board their ship and whatnot, and as long as they're cool, you could have a really, really popping channel, right? People want to know this stuff. People want to, like, I didn't know about how ships are. I didn't know about the bridge. I didn't know about driving a ship. I didn't even know they were called ships. I was calling it a boat. That's a cardinal sin. It's not a boat. It's a ship. I don't understand the difference between a boat and a ship. They all float on the ocean. They all drive. And they call it piloting a ship. I always thought a pilot was in a plane. Anyway, I don't know. I didn't know. And it was great to learn from Alfie. And that's why he began his channel. Same Ship, Different Day. I recall the day when Danny and I came up with the idea in the cabin, sitting there. And we got so excited because we were picturing this, an anchor, right? The ship anchor. And you could have SS, but then the second S could be flipped around. So it's mirroring it. And then the D and the D, Different Day, could be flipped around. So the logo, the name, the branding came well before the content. It was just bingo like that. And it was a beautiful moment between Danny, myself, and Alfie to get to that channel. And Alfie was pumped. But then, of course, like most YouTube creators that, he's got a full-time gig as looking towards being a captain. So he's got a lot on his plate. Obviously, that took up a lot of time. And so you ended up seeing less and less content on the channel. In fact, he mentions that in the video where there's a 2-year gap where he said, I got to apologize, folks. I haven't uploaded for 2 freaking years, which is fine. Hey, I can't believe 2 years has gone that fast. 2017 was when we were on the ship boat together, Danny and I, and a lot of shit's gone down in same shit, different boat now. Everything's changed with Danny and I, but it's kind of nice to see that Alfie, hasn't taken a side in that as well. And like, I don't even know if he knows, to be honest. I don't know if he knows what Danny did to me, or, I mean, what would he think of that anyway? It's not really the point, but it's beautiful that I confirmed with Alfie, by the way, that we can run this content. I said we watched it on the D Live, and I said I want to run it on the YouTube on the weekend, which might be a better time for him. He said he might even try to swing in, but of course the ship internet's pretty lousy. But he said he might try to catch some of it. But either way, he gave us the heads up that it's cool to do this. And I'm thrilled because I watched this content. By the way, this is not an interview. This is his content, but we're going to critique it and talk about it as we go. But I was thrilled when we watched this on D Live. It was really, really interesting to hear someone speaking, not on behalf of the cruise line, but as an officer on board the ship. And he gets kind of emotional, right? Because, like I said earlier, the ship that was parading around the coast here, full of COVID-19, they were upset. They were like, "Man, we got people dying on board our ship, and we're in distress. We need someone to help us." And Australia was just saying, "Fuck, nah, we let you guys off, and we let you in, and it's like the alcohol. Go get the worm. It's like we let you guys in last week, and you ruined the place." So the people that came off that ship infected so many Australians, caused so many deaths. So Australia was saying, "Nah, we're not dealing with you." The ship's like, "Well, you have to, because maritime law. What, all of a sudden you don't play by the law that we all play under?" So I get both angles, and you see it here. Even though Alfie's videos does not relate to Australia at all, but you see it from every time they try to dock at a different port and they get refused or they get told a different thing. I can see how, man, very, very, very scary, right? There's a virus on board this ship that's killing people and no one wants to help us. That's what it felt like watching, and hopefully you'll get that vibe as well. I haven't neglected the chat, just delivering that spiel, but I'm going to get back in there now and say good day to the newcomers, to the chit chats. Where are they? Here we go. Charlotte Rose says, "Honey, the gale force winds make it worse here where I am." Yeah, we got gale force right now. I can hear it rattling the tiles on the roof. No shit, the tiles wobble. There is no X tag on YouTube, only your content being taken down. Hey, I remember Mafugal saying, how can you do a COVID-19 stream on YouTube? I've done plenty of them and they don't take... You know why? Because nobody watches this shit, right? Nobody at YouTube's watching this. I sail under the radar because I'm not big enough. All of my COVID-19 streams are still up. They're still monetized. I've never had anything flagged to yellow icon or in question. None of it. So that's one benefit of being a nobody, I suppose. Cruise industry is finished. Do you think this is finished at Perd Beer? Do you think this ends the cruise industry? I doubt that. I know people, or I don't know them, but I heard firsthand from Danny whilst on board his cruise, there are people that literally live on cruises, and it works out to be cheaper to travel the world permanently on different cruise lines than to actually own a house. Now you put that together, right? Put that in your head. You think about the cost of land taxes, mortgages, council rates, electricity bills. If you got to pay for a garage, people that live in big cities often don't have access to car parking. They got to pay for it. All these utilities add up. What do you pay for on a ship boat? Nothing. You move onto that cruise, and we went on one for 17 days. You can do longer ones. You can do them for months. You just keep plotting a different cruise and paying the money, and you don't have any outlays aside from that. They feed you. Of course, it's a little tedious. I personally could not do that, but there are people doing it. So I don't think the industry is going to suffer. There may be a downward spiral for a little while, but I don't think it's going to plateau out, bottom out and plateau. I think it's going to bottom out, then just slowly come back up. When people forget, people go back to the regular way of life is going to bring people back together. And there you go. Charlotte says, "Don't say that, Perd." Johan, Sebastian, son. Johan, good to see you, man. Good to see you up there, dude. I know you've had trouble getting here for a little while, but I appreciate you swinging by, buddy. Other countries have shunned cruise liners from their shores due to infected passengers. I know, and I know the chat's a little behind, but we're gonna hear exactly how that happened in terms of Royal Princess. It's just how it is. Best thing they could do is melt them all down. You're not into the cruise. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people that are going to lose jobs if that happens, dude. Like, what about people like Danny, right? You might say, well, why do you care about that guy? He doesn't care about you. But what about people like Danny? They call them fly on, fly off musicians or entertainers that literally get commissioned to come on and do certain amount of shows, then they fly off, and not always flying, but in and out basically. That whole ship industry, all the crew that clean the ship, all the staff on board, the chefs, the caretakers, it's like another world on board a ship. And I still feel very honored and privileged to have been able to partake in that with Danny. I would never have thought where this would go in terms of our friendship, given how close and how cool we were on that cruise, how good the friendship was. I would never have thought that we would be where we are now. But fuck, I always go off on that tangent because it hurts me, right? That hurts me. It hurts me. And it's a shame that this has to be so closely tied into the ships, because whenever I think about this, whenever I watch this, I always think about Danny and about that time and how shitty it is. But there you go. Forgot to hug Perd. Is that why Perd's being a little bit negative? Because Charlotte forgot to hug him? Charlotte, get in there and give him a quick hug ski. When the virus is in a hot area, the virus cannot survive the heat and that virus will disappear. So that's why it's happy that it's going into your summer up there in the Northern Hemisphere, and that's why it's bad that it's going into our freaking winter. Shit. Tim, Charlotte, have you caught up with the viewing all my messenger posts, or have I swamped you too much? That's to Charlotte. Aero Gamer up in the chit chat. Hello, Aero Gamer. Hi, everyone. Sneaking a watch during morning tea at work. Ooh, I'm just watching some YouTube over here, boss. Get back over there. Is that what it's like, or are you just like... Gives a minute. Gives a minute. It's live. No, I'll do that later. I'm on morning tea. Get off my case. I'm unreasonable, man. Get off my case. Hello, Arrow, Charlotte Rose, Per Beer. What does Danny do now with no cruise liners? Good question. I mean, well, don't forget Danny also did land-based gigs, so it's not like the cruise liners was everything for him. He also has like gigs in town and around the place. Those videos are when I started to watch you, Ben and Danny. Is that how you came across Arrow from those cruise videos, Danny? Yeah, okay. As long as you're getting a laugh, that's the best thing, Tim says. Hendrik, I'm the same as Charlotte, Tim. There you go. Doing quarantine. Everyone's in quarantine, right? You know what Danny should be doing? He should be doing daily on D-Live. He gave up, right? Thankfully, he gave up Creatorcast on D-Live. I'm happy that he gave that up. But he should never have given up the D-Live Danny. That, if anywhere, if you're going to do music content, immediately if you do music live, if you do covers, right, immediately you do them on YouTube, your channel your stream gets flagged, right? So anytime Danny plays a cover song on YouTube, this stream bingo, bango, it's gone, right? The monetization's gone. Now, not every song gets the stream taken down, but depending on the artist and depending on the label, they may even restrict the viewing of that stream. So you might be streaming and you might start playing. What are you going to play? You might start playing Queen, right? Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't know for a fact, but maybe the bigger ones. And he starts playing, is this the... I don't even want to do that, right? I'm dead serious. I don't even want to do that line because that trips the algorithm. And not only does your stream get like limited to where it can be viewed because of the different territories and music rights, but people all of a sudden think you went offline. On D-Live, the other thing happens. You can do whatever you want and you can earn from it. Now, I don't want to talk too much about D-Live, but as you know, I've got a D-Live channel. The link is in the chit chat right now. I strongly advise anybody that's in Danny's position to go across there and start a stream, start music creation, right? Like, I think Danny had tech issues, which is baffling because there's less tech issues on D-Live than there is on YouTube, categorically. So, yeah, I would say he should have done that. But he gave it up. And that's the trouble with... I'm not allowed to say what Danny does wrong, but if you are asking me, he doesn't stick to anything long enough. But I'm not allowed to say that because that's why our friendship ended, because I told him what he should be doing. I remember saying, dude, you should tone down all the funky intros and all the the drops and the sound effects and all the swishing and swooshing, and just up the level of content, like, because your intros are so rad and it looks so professional, and then your stream quality is garbage. So you want to get these two playing a little bit more equal, right? Like drop down all the effects and artificial garbage and work on getting the content level up. And I got to hand it to him when he was doing the morning show, right? He did curtail that a little, and he did up the quality. His production and his show, the whole show, right, was interesting. It was good. It was a morning show. It was another cool morning show, and he did it well. Then again, he didn't do it long enough. I understand why he quit that, because he had no help from anybody else, which is what happened on Creator Cast, right? You get a good idea, you get 4 crew that are involved in it, and then invariably 1 or 2 do all the hard lifting, and the other 2 sit back and do nada. That's the same thing that looks like happened with not the morning show, right? So he did listen. Ironically, my advice got through to him, and he listened. I don't know what he's doing now, but if you ask me, he should be doing daily D-Live music streams. I mean, he was doing daily music at the pub, so what's the difference? He should set up a pub at home. That's what he should do. He should make a pub, right? Set up a pub at home and be like, this is Danny Black, and change the name of the pub. Change the name of the pub to every stream being where he would have been performing without COVID-19. You can see me tonight at the South Bank, and then he should do he should get a green screen. He should go and speak to Lily's, right? Go and speak to Lily's on D-Live. Get the green screen working and set up a different location, but calling it places where he used to perform. And he could even put that on. Oh, dudes. Am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to tell Danny what he could be doing better? Because this is what ruined our friendship. Shit. He should be posting that shit on Facebook, right? Hey, and tagging the venues. Hey, I should be playing at the Sailor and the Arm. I don't even know if that's a venue. I should be playing at the Sailor and the Arm, but due to COVID-19, I can't be performing there. Instead, link to the D-Live. I'll be over here performing, and then put the green screen of the Sailor and the Arms behind him. Dude, this thing writes itself, right? See, I'm still trying to help the guy, and if anything, me trying to help him pushes our friendship even further away, because the things I'm suggesting, he'd be like, oh, I wanted to find that out myself, man. You didn't need it. Well, I'm trying to help, and I guess I still am, probably shouldn't, but we're talking about ship boats, and that's how you get me on the Danny train, and I start riling up with these ideas, and I'd love to be able to call him and say, dude, I had a great idea for you. I know you hate me. I know you think I'm a dick, but I got a great idea. Shut up and listen. This could really work. I'd love to do that, but he doesn't want to hear it from me. Wow, I feel so bad for the developing countries crew. Bird beer. Totes. Yeah, a lot of those underdeveloped countries supply staff to clean those ships, for sure, man. It's terminal for the next 5 years. If you're doing all that right thing by the investors, you should scrap them for the metal and start again. Interesting. Charlotte Rose, there was a lady that lived on a Carnival Spirit. They were talking about where she's going to go on a Facebook forum. There you go. See? People do live on ships. There was a flight for $2 in our country. We just said, I don't want to be infected. Shit. $2 flights? Sins Fun Factory. After this all passes and people get back to their normal lives, they will eventually want to travel the world. It may take a year or two, and China may never recover. Yeah, China's going to need to be answered. China's going to need to answer for this. And I said that a while ago. I said, how long until the rest of the planet says, dudes, what the hell happened? We want answers. Australia's already demanding them from China, so we're going to have an investigation. China's like, oh, you can't investigate. And the rest of the world's like, you're damn straight we're going to investigate. You let a virus out that's killed a whole bunch of our people. What the hell happened? We want answers. Then there'll be tariffs and trade restrictions and all that. And made in China, ironically, start collecting your made in China things, because they're going to actually be worth something. You get some crappy little USB cables made in China. I used to get those back in 2020. Now you can't get them anywhere. Go get that honey lemon tea. Okay, I'll get it. Matthew Trunksky. Matthew Trukinski. Matthew, how you going, buddy? How you going, man? What's up, buddy? How's it going? Hendrik, he got a green screen. Danny's got a green screen? I told you, man. Told you he should get a green screen. Not bad, hanging out with my son, watching some anime. That's cool. Is the ocean still so wild at your place, Charlotte? Yeah. Tim, Benon, some of your ideas for helping Danny are quite good, but I can see how he may not appreciate being told the obvious. In that, you know why, Tim? Why would someone not appreciate being told what's obvious? Do you know why? It's ego. That's all this is. This is an ego-based argument. He thinks he's something bigger than what he is, and therefore someone that's littler than him can't tell him what he should be doing or what he could be doing. And that's ego. Ego got the best of him. That's all that is, man. I'm trying to help. Like none of my suggestions was so that I'd do it. Like everything I've suggested to him, I'm not doing in place. I'm not taking his thing. I'm suggesting what I see from the outside, how you could be doing better. If you can't take the advice, then man, cocoon yourself off and be nothing, right? Just be what you want to be. Don't listen to anybody. Matthew Triskinski is RJT team from D-Live. Well, I didn't know that. Didn't know that. Well, there you go. Thanks for letting me know that, Sins Fun Factory. So what do you do is talk to the other mutual friends you both have that you still know, talks to both of you and pass the idea on to pass it to Danny. I mean, look, yeah, that's one way to do it. I mean, sure, Charlotte, I know, and the beauty of this is that people in the chat here, Charlotte and Hendrik and Tim, they're all still friends with Danny. I'm not suggesting you got to take sides here. I'm not saying that at all. And some of this information might filter down to Danny through that. I'm happy with that. All I'm saying is, if that's the reason our friendship ended, that's pretty shit. Like, that's pretty shit. On that note, folks, I'm going to go and get that tea. We're going to have a little look at a slightly random daily song from this week. When we come back, we're going to get into the content here with Alfie from Same Ship, Different Day. Welcome back to the slightly random daily song. King of the North. You see my shirt here? King of the North. That's the South. That's the North. You know the northern point of Culburra Beach if you watch my surfing content. This band, King of the North, two-piece rock band from Adelaide via Melbourne town. My history with this band goes back. So two-piece Andrew Higgs, or as he's known in Australia, as you'd expect, Higgsy. Of course it's Higgsy. Did I just snot then? Clear that out of there. Higgsy and Danny Leo are the founding members of this band. Guitars, vocals, and drums respectively. Now, my history with Higgsy goes back even before King of the North. He was messing around with his own solo act. He booked me a bunch of times to photograph his band and also some private gigs. I remember once he booked me to photograph his nonna's 90th birthday, if I remember that correctly. Anyway, his band, King of the North, so two-piece, and this is, I'm talking about the first incarnation before, because Danny, ooh, I should be out there, sir. So Danny Leo left the band, so what I'm talking about now is the beginning of the band, but that's kind of irrelevant. Maybe we should jump forward to this album, because this album here is their most current album, Get Out of Your World, and it's from 2016. So yeah, let's talk about the current King of the North, okay? I don't know a lot about the current King of the North, to be completely honest. I've kind of lost track after Danny left. I understand the new drummer, or the replacement drummer, and this goes back to 2016, so we're talking a number of years ago, Steve Tyson from Brisbane. I don't know the gentleman. I haven't seen a show with Steve on drums. They're still performing, they're still writing, they're still kicking it out there. I believe there's a couple of shows coming up in April. This is April. In May. Either way, you can go and search them. They got a great website, kingofthenorth.com.au. This shirt here, Get Out of Your World. Now, is it Get Out of Your World or Get Out of Your World? You can choose to say it however you wish. This is the most current album. The track I want to play for you, it's kind of got a tie into previous slightly random daily songs, and let's see if you can work out what that tie-in is. This is The Mountain from King of the North, from Get Out of Your World. I'm gonna pop you down here so you guys can see the ocean. Probably something like that. Is that a good angle? You can see the ocean. We're looking to the south there, but ignore the direction. This is King of the North from Get Out of Your World with The Mountain. there you go, folks. King of the North with the mountain. Did you enjoy that sound? Hard to believe there's just a two-piece, right? All that sound coming from two people. Amazing. Now, did you spot the tie-in to a previous Slightly Random Daily song? I'll give you a little clue, clue, clue. There's a guest vocal on that track. Do I want to tell you who it is? Do I want to tell you what the connection is, or do I want to leave it? All right, I'll tell you. The guest vocal on that track is none other than John Scott from The Mark of Cain. If you've seen previous Slightly Random Daily songs, you would know The Mark of Cain. Fellow Adelaide bands, all working together to produce incredible sounds. And if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, go and see a live show. That's the idea. Go and see a live show. And if you can't see them, you're not in Australia, they're not touring Europe or whatever it is, go and get the record. Go and buy the record. Go to thekingofthenorth.com.au and get the record. You can buy it there. I'm sure you can. Can you buy it there, Higgsy? I'm pretty sure you can. Now, while I sit down and listen to the rest of the record, you guys can go back to the live stream. Oh shit, you caught me, Got myself a tea. Hope you enjoyed that lovely King of the North track. I got myself a lem sip and I added cinnamon and lemon and honey into it. So basically it's looks like urine, right? It's gotta be good if it looks as bad as it does. Let's have a bit of a... Oh, ugh, that's disgusting. Yuck. But let's drink it all. Look at you guys in the chat. RIP AirPod wearers. It's all crackly as it's being beamed from a spaceship. Pooh. Nailed it, Tim. Oh, my eardrums are gonna blow. It sounds like eggs and bacon being cooked. Really? I love that. I love eggs. Very true. We owe Hendrik. Yes, Hendrik. That was Hendrik's idea to put that in. Isn't that a shame that we got to do that on YouTube, though? Like, realistically, the simplest solution, I've said this before, the simplest solution would be if YouTube paid royalties to the record labels. That'd be simple, right? They just pay a fee to the record labels and say, okay, from now on, you can put up content on our platform because we've already paid for it. They could use the 30% off the top, right? Love the ending, so musical. Can I download that track? Mainly for the ending, of course. You can. Charlotte says, now put 6 parts of Jack in here. In here? Do you want me to put Jack in this? That'd be such a criminal thing to do, though. By the way, check this out. I'm gonna get up out of my seat here to get the Jack and show you why it's criminal, and then you, on the way that I do that, you'll see what I've been doing underneath here. I've been wearing my dressing gown on my freaking legs because I'm that cold here. This is what I wanted to get. I wanted to get this and show you I could not mix the rest of the Tennessee Arrested Rye in here. It would be it'd be a waste, right? I can smell it though. At least I can smell it. See, it smells so good, but the taste, not so great. I won't be doing that though. Folks, let's move on to the content though. This is Alfie Smith and his channel, Same Ship, Different Day. But I want to show you, before we get to that, I want to show you... That's your bottle, Sin. Yeah, exactly, Sin. This one's yours, that one's yours, and the one after that's already yours as well. Dude, you are the gentleman of the lifetime. So why can other YouTubers post cover versions of songs on their monetized channels, but you can't do similar? That no one can, Tim. Unless you get a whitelist from the record labels, you can't. The moment you put up a cover song, you get a copyright claim straight away. It's not even... It's a system. It's not even a person. It's a system that recognizes the song. And I've tested it, right? I've tested it on every single channel I've owned. I uploaded a portion of that song as a little video, like 30 seconds. Every single channel I own, bam, copyright, bam, copyright, bam, within 20 seconds of it going live as an unlisted video, copyright, copyright, copyright. Yeah. That's disgusting. So what I want to show you first before we get to Alfie's channel is that there's two little sort of... I interviewed Alfie, and there's one little clip before where you get to meet Alfie, and then there's a clip where we have a little interview. So let's go across and have a look at that now. This is my YouTube channel. This is in Suva, in Fiji.
Bad Wi-Fi and a bad waterfall. That's 2 bad W's. Alfie, what do you think of the waterfall, man?
I'm not as disappointed as you are, but I think it's pretty cool. You know?
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't get to get off the ship as much as this guy, so.
That's true. We've been
No,
able to
it is.
see. We've been able to see a lot of things.
That's Alfie.
He's got too many responsibilities back on the ship. By the way, Alfie, can I just say I hardly recognise you not in your whites, man. Like I've seen you.
I know, it's a nice change, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unlike you, man, I see the same shirt every day. This whole cruise, like,
Yeah.
it's the tracer guy. If nobody knows who he is, it's the tracer guy.
I have worn this shirt for 7 days straight, but I tell you now, it's time for NSD.
Huh.
NSD. This episode
We
is
won't have to watch NSD. Oh, what is the NSD though?
Danny Black. Now you know I'm on this cruise thanks to Danny Black. I could talk about Danny Black,
Classic.
or I could just introduce you to Danny Black. Here he is, right here. This is Danny Black, the man responsible for music on board the P&O cruise.
Oh, that's right. I
He's
forgot we did this.
An awesome dude. Where is Danny Black? Right here. I'm not sure why I put this shirt on because I'm not going to swim in it, am I?
Well, we're not going to watch any more. Oh, wow, that's really weird blurring effect there. Holy crap. Look at younger Benon with better hairstyle. You think my hair looks better then? Maybe I can go back to that. So that was the first time that we kind of had a bit of a chat to Alfie on board. This is all part of the cruise that's in Suva at a waterfall. Then we did an interview. I did an interview with Alfie, and this is what it looks like.
You've met Alfie a few times now in my vlog.
Please excuse the sketchy GH5. This is the GH5 really struggling for autofocus.
Second officer here on board the Pacific Explorer. Alfie, I had a question that I think the givers on my channel might want to know. Alfie's a young man. He's 23 years of age. You have a house in England that
Yeah.
you've bought. He has a vehicle he's bought in England. You've achieved a lot as a young person. To get to where you are as a second officer, how much of your life have you had to sacrifice to achieve this?
My life has been completely different to anybody that might want to go to university or study at home. I started with Princess or P&O Australia 5 years ago, September 2012. It's been an absolutely amazing experience, but you're right. I've never had, my 3 years of training as a cadet, I never had more than 5 weeks off. Most people who go to university might have 4 or 5 months off for summer at a time.
But you never went and partied for durations of time. You were constantly focused on your cadetship.
Absolutely. So what they do is it's split down. So we started in college in 2012, and you split it down into phase 1 in college, where you're just learning the absolute basics. Then you go off to sea. So it's a 9-month sea phase. But during that time, you've got to get at least 6 months sea time. Most people get a bit more. So what they do is you have a short vacation before you go to sea. Go to sea, come home for just a few weeks, then go off again to another ship.
What age were you at that point?
So I was 18 when I started.
See, when I was 18, I was skateboarding, boozing, and you were out at a cadetship. The point I'm illustrating here is that this man has made major sacrifices in his life. It's commendable. Speaking from a second officer, to get to a captain, what's the future look for you? Like, how does this trajectory go for you now from here?
So right now I hold a Class 2 Chief Mate license, which is the second highest you can have, which is required to be a senior officer of the watch on a cruise ship like.
Note very well on his shoulder the stripes. This will come into play in his update videos because he's got 2 stripes there, and when we see him next, he's got 3 stripes or 2.5, and he'll talk about that. Also note Danny in the background there. Those guys, or that guy and the girl that Danny's talking to, they were lovely people. That dude was such a good vocalist. He won the onboard like a Stedford kind of performance thing. He had a couple of nights where he had to perform and get voted. He cleaned up. He was really, really good. In the chat, can you use other music if your video isn't monetized, or does it still? It doesn't matter if your video is monetized or not. If your channel's monetized or not, it still gets a copyright flag, and it basically means that if you ever did monetize, or if you ever did apply for monetization and you got approval, all that monetization from that existing video would then go directly to the copyright holder from then on forwards. So you still get the notification. You've uploaded copyright material. Hey, is this a strike on my channel? No, it's copyright infringement only. Any royalties, any AdSense will be delivered to BMG Universal. Usually it's BMG Universal. Jack is so good though. It is Sin, fun fact. You know it, man. You know it. You think my hair looks better longer like it is now? So do I, actually. I think it looks a little better now. Alfie living the dream. Hopefully he's back doing what he loves soon. Yeah, it's a shame when this has to sort of curtail your life. Like, I guess the point of this interview is to showcase where Alfie's come from, and when we see his video, you'll see what the changes. I still think this is very, very commendable for a young person. Like I said, I was out boozing and skateboarding and chasing chicks, right? And I'm sure he's done his fair share of that too. But to dedicate so much of his time to the cadetship to become a seaman. Well, if you ask me, sir, women and seamen don't mix. The Simpsons can't flag me for that. Well, probably can. Same ship, different day in the chit chat. How you going, Alfie? Hey guys, sorry I'm late to the party. Unfortunately, my internet isn't good enough to follow live, but I might be able to answer any questions in the chat. There you go, folks. Alfie in the chat. If you wanted to ask him some questions, he will answer you. Alfie, I'm still blown away by your dedication here and give you props for your lifestyle. And yeah, you're a lovely man.
This one. However, to be a captain, you have to have a Class 3 license, which is master. To do that, you need to have at least 24 months sea time with the chief mate's license. So that's not just time, that's sea time. And obviously we do have vacations. So it's going to take me about another 4 years to get that. And then I have to go back and do the exams, obviously. And that just gives me the license. That doesn't give me the promotion. So from that point, I've still got another like 5 steps to get through to get to captain.
Are there other people trying to take your position? Like, are there other captain or second officers going, I want to be captain, and they're charging up behind you? Like,
of course, there's always competition. Being British, I think, helps. The British COC is held as, or regarded as one of the highest out there. You've got to have a certain something, which I hope people find in me, you know. You just got to work hard, you got to stick with it. Just
to put a timestamp on this, it's the 23rd of October 2017. If I came and found you in 17, 18, 19, 20, say 2021, would it be safe to say you'd be a captain of some vessel?
I'd say that's hard. I'd have the license.
Okay.
I'd have the license. I'd have an unlimited master's license. To be captain in 4 years would be a big task. Maybe give me 10. Give me 10 years.
I've known this guy for only a period of say 12 days, and I believe in you, and I feel you can do this. And I want to also come back to this conversation in like 4 or 5 years, and we will readdress this when he is captain. It's a deal?
It's a deal.
Good to meet you, Alfie.
And you.
Thanks again, man.
Thanks so much.
Well, we have now
What a nice guy, huh? What a nice guy. So nice to have you up in the chat too, Alfie. I appreciate you being up there in the chat. Good morning, Alfie. Hello, Sailor. Same ship, different day says, good evening from the Bahamas. Wow, dude. So you're still in quarantine in the Bahamas. I know you probably can't see me or hear me, but can someone ask him in the chat if he's in quarantine? Because we'll get to the where we last left Alfie off, or where he left us. Tim, so basically, as long as I don't want to receive money from my videos, I could use anyone's. That's correct. But don't forget, you also run the risk of the video being removed globally. There are certain record labels that do not allow copyright. They just flat out do not allow. I think a lot of the Beatles stuff, although that's changed because they sold it. But back in the day, certainly back in the early, before Beatles were on Apple Music, there was definitely a thing where you put anything for the Beatles and it gets removed. So it's territorially, that's a strange word to say, territorially based. So yes, you can put up music as long as you do not wish to earn any royalties from it. You can certainly do that. A lot of creators that do that ask for Patreon support in other ways to earn money off the platform. So folks, this is Alfie's YouTube channel, Same Ship, Different Day. Now I have put a link in the chat if you want to go and have a look at that on your own leisure. That's in the chat now for you if you wanted to check that out. We're going to go across and have a look at his videos. There is 3 of them that we want to check out. This first one here is part 1 of 2 parts, and then there's a follow-up, Life in Quarantine. So let's play this, and we'll comment over it as we go. And if you have any questions to ask Alfie, he's in the chat. If you see something that you want to learn about, and the video doesn't explain it, and I can't explain it, Alfie can't see us. He maybe cannot even hear us, but he can see your chat comments. So you can go across there and ask him there. So let's go here and have a look.
Hello guys, and welcome back to Same Ship, Different Day. This is coming to you from a different ship, from on board the Coral Princess. Now, obviously a few changes since I last spoke to you, which was 2 years ago. I think just coming up to 2 years, which was the end of April
delay.
2018 when I last uploaded something. I do apologise for that. I did get a little bit lazy and a little bit busy with general things in life, and obviously the job that I lead did.
It's tough, Alfie, man. I tell you, it's tough to create content. I appreciate you putting anything out there, man. I know it's been a couple of years for you, but I appreciate that you've done this. I think this is great timing. This is important to hear this information from you and from the ship's perspective.
Become more and more challenging in order to edit and upload these vlogs. And so I do still have loads of material actually from back then, which has not yet been edited. Hopefully one day I can get that to you. For now though, I thought I'd update you on my current situation. Before we start, a few differences you can notice. I've actually got a bit of facial hair now. I'm wearing my glasses, and as you can see, I've got another stripe on my shoulder.
Congrats on the
I've
stripe.
been promoted to Senior Second Officer.
Whee! Senior.
Here on board the Coal Princess. It's my first contract as Senior Second. So that gives me that extra little half bar in the centre there. And this new hoop that you see on my shoulder is something that's been now integrated into the Princess Cruises fleet. It's been given to all certified deck and technical officers on.
Hey, Alfie, when we watched this on D-Live, someone made a comment about your choice in tea, Bigelow tea. They were like, oh, he's got good taste in tea. The Bigelow's great. I'd never heard Bigelow tea, but is that yours or is that the ship's tea that just happened to be in that room? Same ship, different day. I'm confident it's such a large and strong industry with serious loyalty. Carnival Corporation, which owns Princess and P&O, has secured enough capital. Oh, so of course. So you still work for the same company, but you're on a different fleet. I'm glad you said that. Alfie, could there be a casual employment for someone offering to kneecap up-and-coming ships officers seeking promotion to the rank of... Jesus. Tim, come on, man. You got a chance of a lifetime to ask a second officer a legit question and you ask him that? Tim. Perdbeer says, I can't see customers who will be... So you're saying that no one will want to use cruise lines. I get you.
Board. However, this vlog is not about me. But before we begin, let's start with 2 points. Firstly, thank you very much. We've just this week actually hit 100 subscribers, which I never expected to happen, especially seeing as I was not giving you any content whatsoever.
Cheers to 100,
in the last
man.
2 years. And some of the videos have hit over 4,000 views, which is quite incredible. But at least that means there's at least 100 people that are going to see this and care about what I'm going to tell them. Before I begin with the story of what's happening here on the Coal, I'd like to just go through the fact that none of my opinions or views or anything that I say in this vlog reflect the views of Princess Cruises or the company.
This is important. This is important for you to state that, and I'm glad you did. And I don't know for a fact, but I'm leaning towards Royal Princess saying if you want to create content, you've got to distance yourself as this is not the representation of our business. You work for us. I think that's good. And I always said Danny could do that as well and still create vlogs from the ship, but Danny didn't like that. I'm loving your running commentary, Ben, and thanks so much for going through these. Dude, my pleasure, man. It was actually Shyla Rose that said you should do this. And I was like, yeah, the videos are so great. And it's been 3 years since we met. This is a great catch up, man. Great catch up. God bless the internet, right? I know you're having trouble right now. You're uploading a vlog. Well, I'll see you in 4 days when that finishes uploading.
Just thought I'd clarify that before I begin. And also, just to say that, you know, this is my story, this is what I've observed, the timeline that I've drawn up from what's happened over this last month or so. And hopefully you'll see things from my side and
Very smart.
Learn a little bit more about what's been going on board the Coal. So the story begins on the 5th of March 2020, where around 1,700 new passengers embarked Coal Princess to join the just shy of 900 crew, and we set sail from San Antonio in Chile with a full healthy ship of 2,700 souls on.
I got to stop you there, Alfie, because I that's a bad pause. I'll get you off that facial expression. You did it again. Sorry, man, that's bad. I wondered about this when we watched it on D-Live. I wondered how you can confirm, you said you had a healthy ship. How do you confirm that no one had corona at that point? Because we all know that there's a 2-week minimum period of no symptoms. So you could have boarded that ship as a healthy passenger, yet you could have already been infected, and therefore you're starting the commencement of moving this virus around. Does the cruise industry scan health-wise passengers before they board? Because if they do, Danny and I definitely didn't go through that process, and I went through as a guest, as a regular passenger on board that ship. So I'm wondering how you confirm that the guests are healthy at the point of embarkation. How's that for a term? Embarkation. I know that from my time.
Board. On the way down, it began as a normal cruise. We stopped in Puerto Montt, Punta Arenas, and then transited the internal waters of the Magellan Canal and Beagle Canal on our way over to Argentina. We did stop in Ushuaia on the 11th of March.
G'day, Wilson. How you
And
going?
a generally
Wilson!
normal cruise, some beautiful
How are you,
scenery,
Wilson?
and what everybody had paid for. On the morning of the 12th of March, we did actually head down to Cape Horn, and we managed to do a complete transit of Cape Horn the whole way around the island, which is very nice. And if any of you have sailed down here before, then you know that that's sort of a 50-50 chance, especially this time of year. It would have been our last of the season.
There you go,
It
Perd,
was a stunning
answering
one.
your questions.
12th of March,
Same shit, different
just
day.
done Cape Horn. I come up on the bridge at noon to the news of this announcement of a 60-day pause in the Princess Global Fleet operation, that all ships now will be ending their cruises, and once the cruise is over, whether it's immediately or in the near future, then all Princess Cruises ships will be proceeding to a soft layout position, wherever that may be.
So the idea
Now,
was
soft
to finish
layout,
the
in the
cruise
way that
early.
I think about it, it's basically just the minimum manning and movement of a ship for the absolute critical safe operation and compliance of a vessel. So that's the idea. We're going to go, and we're going to go to soft layout. We're in South America.
So a slightly more thorough screening process was introduced, and temperatures were taken of all joining passengers. So there was already some concern about COVID-19 at the point of this cruise setting sail. Interesting. So that was a precautionary measure that was already being taken. That's good to know. There was precautionary measures being taken.
America, it's healthy. I think at that time only one reported case of COVID-19 or coronavirus, which came from Sao Paulo, Brazil, which was actually originated from Italy. The decision was made to complete that cruise, which was due to finish on the 19th of March in Buenos
Every
Aires,
joining passenger
Argentina.
always completes a health declaration, but
Just
obviously
1
people
week
can
from the
lie.
date of the announcement. Complete the cruise.
Yeah, I
get the
can't recall
passengers
doing
off,
that.
and then we could proceed to our soft layout position. 13th of March was a usual call in Stanley in the Falkland Islands. I actually went off and saw some penguins. I'll show you a little photo of that. And then we proceeded
New
from
girly.
Stanley after a normal call.
Congrats on
time,
that.
We proceeded to Puerto Madryn, Argentina. Scheduled to arrive in Puerto Madryn on the 15th of March. However, on our approaches, we were informed that we would not be making that port of call. Argentina had begun at that stage to put in some restrictions, and it was still early days, but they had made the decision not to accept our ship into Argentina at that time.
Wow.
So instead we proceeded to our next port of call, which was Montevideo in Uruguay. At this stage it was very early days. This was basically the first change that we'd really encountered, but it was going to be the first of many. On our way to Montevideo, we then heard that when we did arrive in Montevideo, there would not be allowed any movement of passengers or crew at all. It would simply be a stop in order to take stores that we needed and fuel, as obviously we had not refueled for quite some time.
So that was not a case where in Monte. By the way, I never knew that's how you say it. I always called it Montevideo. So you were not going to be interacting with people. It was all going to be an automated refueling and extra supplies. At that point, you're wondering, what are the supplies for? Like, are we going to be out here for a year? Like, what's going on? Like, we got to get these passengers off the ship, right? Tim, all recruitment has been paused, says SSDD. Podbeer, I'm not convinced reduced demands in the leisure industry combined with the increased regulations will kill the margins. Interesting.
The plan was go to Montevideo, get these stores, get the fuel on board, and then proceed to Buenos Aires so we can disembark our passengers. Again, another change on the way was that we were going to skip Montevideo completely, go straight to Buenos Aires, and that way we could definitely get our passengers off as soon as possible, get them home, get them repatriated. Obviously, with all this going on in the world, people were certainly eager to get home at this stage. On the way, we heard from the Argentinian government and the medical association that they have, asking us to conduct a temperature check of all passengers and all crew on board the Cole, and to feedback with the results. Obviously, we had a healthy ship at that time.
20 hours ago.
Very happy with our current
60%
condition.
classic.
South America is quite clear, and we had.
Oh, Perdby with a good question. I saw that not even, or a good point, not even diabetics will be able to sail in the future. Anybody with a chronic illness. Can you confirm that, SSDD? anyone with diabetes and a chronic illness will be forbidden to be on board a cruise line. I've not heard that.
A full, healthy ship. So we completed the temperature check successfully. No abnormal figures came from that check at all, and gave that feedback back to Argentina, which they accepted. And then we continued to Recolada pilot station, where we embark our pilot before transiting the long river passage to Buenos Aires, which is 138 miles.
A river
very,
passage?
Very narrow pilotage, so quite a difficult
Through a
passage to
river?
undertake. We on the bridge actually have to be at an increased manning level just to do that passage.
Wow.
So we head there, and
sounds
as we
cool.
arrive at the pilot station, we receive information that we would not be embarking our pilot at that time, and we should instead just go to anchor. We were anchored just outside Montevideo, in fact, because if you've ever been, they're very close, and await further instruction. We did eventually manage to embark our pilot the next day. We were given permission to enter the port, so we started this long transit in the afternoon of the 19th of March, slightly later than we had originally anticipated. However, we did finally arrive alongside in Buenos Aires at approximately 2 a.m. on the 20th of March 2020. However, as we arrived, we are greeted by several medical professionals which joined the ship from Argentina and came on board. We were given no clearance at all, so no one was allowed on or off the ship. We just took on board these few medical professionals that came round and insisted on doing their own temperature check yet again. Obviously this is a long process, especially at 2 o'clock in the morning, so they were going cabin by cabin, knocking on the doors in order to find out people's temperatures and to check that we weren't in any way lying on our submitted forms.
We had a question there too, Alfie. At 2 a.m. temperature checks, wouldn't crew have been, or passengers been sleeping at that point?
At first they were insisting on temperature checking everyone, but eventually...
SSD says, if Corona knocks out the top four and I'm in line for captainship, you could achieve it before you thought you could. Then we have to do the interview, man. We have to do the 4-year interview.
A good sample, they realised that our information that we had submitted was accurate and matching, and therefore they did allow us, give us the clearance that we needed in order to start disembarkation. Now, a very specific set of rules for this disembarkation. Passengers would be only allowed to leave if they had a confirmed flight directly out of the country, and they would be under police escort from the ship all the way to the airport. So the disembarkation process eventually started in the afternoon of the 20th of March, when we were calling people by flight number. So it was a bit like being in an airport. Flight number would be announced over the tannoy, and you would proceed to the gangway to then be escorted to the airport.
Wow.
This was going successfully. We got around 900 people off, 900 guests off, and they went to the airport with the intention of boarding their flights. Unfortunately, several of these flights were cancelled at the very last minute, with more and more regulations coming in regarding this coronavirus and everything around.
SSDD, Perd, unfortunately I have no idea about the future medical requirements. We're still trying to disembark passengers. So you still got, because there was 9 left on board your ship when we last saw your video, you're still trying to get those crew off the ship. Alfie, I'm guessing the recent rule changes to the environmental effect of cruise ships regarding the pollution from their engines will be quite expensive as a result of building new ships. How many people need to get sick before the cook is behind the wheel per beer? Jesus.
Around the world. This was likely to happen, so the agreement had already been made that anyone that was denied a flight from the airport would then be escorted back to the ship and be allowed to re-embark the vessel.
That's a strange thing. That's a strange point that happened there. So in Australia, anybody coming off a flight, not even a ship, but anyone coming off a flight was quarantined into a hotel for 2 weeks, mandatory. They're basically using the ship as a hotel at that point. You're in Montevideo, and you couldn't get a flight out. Your flight was cancelled or whatever. Put you back on the same ship you came off. I think they should have put them in hotels at that point, because I think that's how you picked it up.
By the end of the disembarkation process on the 20th of March, we had approximately 1,024 guests left on board, and all the crew there when we arrived. We were hoping to then go on to the next day and continue the disembarkation process, booking more flights and getting people home. Unfortunately, at approximately 10 p.m. that night, we then received information that the president of Argentina had made his announcement and decided to stop all transport and close all ports around Argentina. And so very quickly and at very last minute we did have to make the decision to leave the port before midnight when they were planning to close. So we departed.
What would have happened if you didn't leave and they closed the port? What happens then?
Buenos Aires en route now back to Montevideo, where we were originally going to go to get our supplies, and that was still the plan. Again, a long passage, 138 miles just to get out of the passage for Buenos Aires and enter the tight passage for Montevideo. We finally arrived in Montevideo approximately 12 hours later. We were planning also to get fuel at that time, but unfortunately there was a delay, and so we did have to wait a little while to finally get our fuel. So we started our bunkering process later than we expected, and therefore couldn't leave until later on. Again, no one allowed on or off at this stage, only allowed there to take our stores that we critically needed and our fuel.
Wow.
Prior to departure though, on the 22nd of March, we were planning to leave first thing in the morning. We did receive information of a smaller cruise ship that was at anchor just outside of Montevideo. It just come up from Antarctica after several weeks on a cruise down there, and there were 32 American and Canadian citizens on board that ship that were looking to be repatriated, and we had offered to help them. Unfortunately, for this process to happen, we did require the use of a shoreside tender in order to ferry the passengers from their ship to our ship in those conditions.
Hang on. So you were taking people off that ship that was coming from the Antarctica onto your ship? That's weird. That's almost the same as putting people in a hotel, right? Like that's... I don't think that should have happened.
At sea, basically. Unfortunately, this was not able to come into fruition, and so we did have to keep going past them, and we went
There you go.
and gave priority to our passengers to get them back.
Was that a decision made to not possibly mix the ship's potential viruses together? Because I think that's a smart decision.
Lauderdale, which was now the plan. We're going to go to America, we're going to get everybody off. There's 374 American citizens on board the ship. We're perfectly healthy. America is still offering commercial flights home, and so we could get there, and we thought we could successfully get everyone off and disembarked. Now, on the sea days up to Fort Lauderdale, we received information from the company that we were to proceed directly to Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, which was actually originally a port on our cruise that we would have been on had we been cruising normally. So we headed straight for Rio de Janeiro. We were able to arrive there approximately noon on the 24th. Now the reason we were going there was the plan was Brazil didn't have as many restrictions in place as the other countries, and so we hopefully would be able to repatriate our guests.
Yeah, Brazil had no regulations because their prime minister's a madman. Passengers were sleeping and being woken by people in full boiler suits, mask, gloves, goggles, taking their temperature. Not a nice experience. Yeah. Why did it have to happen at 2 a.m. though?
From Rio de Janeiro, we'd be able to get them disembarked there, get them on flight home, and then the ship could proceed just with the crew to a soft layout position. At that time, we were a perfectly healthy ship, no reports really of any symptoms. We had no concerns at that stage, so we were going to head to Rio and get everyone off. Got there around noon on the 24th to the pilot station, and as we called the pilot on the VHF, he told us, sorry, you don't have permission to come in, we won't be providing you with a pilot at this time. Which was, again, another change. So we went in, we went to drift for a while whilst we spoke with shoreside and got information and decided whether or not we would be able to make this port of call at all. Eventually we were told that even if we did get alongside, we would not be able to disembark our passengers, our guests, so it kind of made the port of call completely pointless for us. We'd already refueled and restored in Montevideo, and so we decided to continue, abort that call, and head straight for Fort Lauderdale as per the original plan, and try to get into America and get our passengers safely home. Perfectly healthy ship, no unusual counts for illnesses. And we're proceeding for Fort Lauderdale. Quite a few sea days up to Fort Lauderdale from Brazil, as you can imagine. It's quite a long way. We're heading there, we have our fuel and we have our stores on board. Excellent news. Now this is where I'm going to finish on part one. I think you've heard me go on for long enough, but now you have the background of where we've been and where we're planning to go. At this point, still a healthy ship, no traces of COVID-19. The biggest thing that was going on board was the worry and obviously the emotion, and I guess it is an emotion of being stranded at sea, because at that stage, everywhere we went, we were being told there was some kind of restriction or we couldn't enter for some reason or another. It was starting to wear everyone down, I felt, emotionally, and so we were going to go straight to Fort Lauderdale, and that's the current plan as we end it there. Thanks for watching, thanks for coming back. Hopefully if this pinged up in your subscription box, in your inbox, you were happy to see it, and I've enjoyed it. And I'll be back tomorrow with part 2 and what's happened since then in order to leave us to where we are today. Take care, I'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you learned something new about life at sea, and if you did enjoy it, then please hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell next to it if you want to get notifications every time I upload something, and we'll move forward from here. Please don't forget to comment and let me know what you want to see from me. I'm looking forward to it.
I love that sign out. I love that sign out, but you got to drop the volume on that end slate, dude. That's really, that's a frustration when you're watching a stream or you're watching content and the volumes aren't EQ'd correctly. So that's a little tip from me. Let's have a quick look. This is part 1. Let's go part 2 here. Part 2.
Hi there guys, welcome back to part 2 of my story coming to you from the Coral Princess. Thank you to everybody who watched part 1 yesterday, and if you haven't seen part 1, I'd recommend you go back, otherwise you might struggle to understand what's coming up now. As you can see, I've not actually decided to wear my uniform today. I'm not currently working, which I'll explain later, so I didn't need to be in it.
I thought it'd be better if you did wear the uniform.
Something that comes more from me. I want you to see me more as somebody that was caught up in this, rather than just one of the officers from the bridge.
I get that.
So, as always, before I begin, I wanted to advise you that obviously none of my views or opinions reflect those of my company or Princess Cruises, and this is purely just my sort of report on what happened and what I observed and what happened to me during this the last few weeks, really. So I think we left off last time just having left Rio de Janeiro, heading northbound along the Brazilian coast. We're aiming for Fort Lauderdale. At least that was
in part 3. He'll be topless. It's like slowly deranking, huh?
And it was about this time that we started to see an increase in reports of crew members and guests going to the medical centre and coming down with flu-like symptoms. We did, of course, just hope at first that it would be influenza. Obviously, it's not a nice thing to have either, but it is more common and more treatable.
Common flu.
Than COVID-19. In the coming days, it was probably about 2 or 3 days into our journey up along the coast that we discovered a new intention, which was not to go to Fort Lauderdale directly. We would first stop in Barbados, where that would allow us to collect more supplies and fuel
you were going
for us to continue on our journey and have a bit more contingency. With so many changes going on at that point, it was obvious that we needed to kind of be ready for any scenario and prepared for that. From Rio de Janeiro to Barbados actually took us 7 days, so it was a week between the two. During the course of this, as I said, we started to see more and more cases of flu-like symptoms occurring. I don't have exact figures for you, but I say more and more. It was just above the usual average that you would have on board a ship for anybody with flu-like symptoms. It was starting to get to that stage. So we decided to take necessary precautions. The first one of these was on the 30th of March. The precaution was taken to quarantine all remaining guests on board. So all 1,024 guests were going to be quarantined in their cabins, obviously receiving the normal service and anything else they required for this period of time. And they'd be staying there until our arrival in Fort Lauderdale, obviously beyond Barbados. The decision was taken in order to reduce any possible spread of any illness at all, influenza or otherwise. In addition to this, obviously for the crew members as well, you have to take their own safety into account. So they were informed
the crew members need to be
that unless you were leaving your cabin to eat or for your duties, of which some people were now given additional duties or new duties because their usual guest services were no longer required as the guests were remaining in their cabins. unless you are leaving for one of those two reasons, then we asked that they remain in their cabins, as that was the best protocol really to avoid any possible spread through the crew members, as we had started to see cases.
Great, loving the first-hand info. Yeah,
we
sure,
arrived
it really is.
31st of March in Barbados, late evening, if I remember
Code Beer
right.
says, are supplies
And
cheaper or more
we were
expensive
only going to be
during
there
this
for
time?
a few
Good
hours
question.
whilst we took our supplies and took our fuel.
Good
We arrived
question.
successfully alongside. We didn't take a pilot on board, obviously as a precaution. Again, we didn't want to bring anything on or off that we didn't need, any person on or off that we didn't need to transfer. When we were in Barbados, samples were given from some of these sick passengers and crew to a shoreside authority, and they were going to be going off and being tested for COVID-19. We didn't become aware of this until a few days later. We were taking everything was a precautionary action, preliminary action, in order not to miss the boat, if you like, to try and get ahead of anything that we could possibly have. So these samples were taken and sent off to a lab in Barbados. Several samples were also sent to the United States for testing. I don't know how many tests were sent off. That wasn't disclosed to me. Obviously, I'm not part of the medical team. I'm part of the bridge team, so my job is simply to navigate. And we had enough going on, enough changes going on for us to concentrate on that. The medical side of things was left to the professionals, as you can imagine. These tests were sent off, and we departed Barbados on the same day, 31st of March.
I like how you got all the dates here.
Within
Alfie.
48 hours of our departure from Barbados, we received the news that obviously nobody wanted to hear. I was called up to the bridge and had a meeting, and the captain made an announcement for the guests and crew members, and we were informed that the tests that had been sent out did come back, or at least some of them came back positive for COVID-19 or coronavirus. Obviously quite a scary time. We did think it was a possibility, but honestly, in my personal opinion, I was thinking it's not. I couldn't see how we would have been able to get it on board. No one had really been off the ship since the 13th of March in Port Stanley. However, these tests did come back positive. We had, I think, 12 tests come back positive, 7 guests and 5 crew members, so almost getting on for a 50-50 split. So it wasn't just the guests that it had been infecting. Obviously at this stage we knew we needed to take more precaution and more measures, and so in addition to those measures already taken regarding the crew members, every crew member was then issued with a mask. We received N95 masks or even higher standard, and these were distributed across the entire ship to all crew members on board, and the instruction was if you were to leave your cabin you were to wear a mask. That was mandatory, that had to be done.
Fair enough.
So for going to work or going to eat,
fuel is
should
cheaper
always be
though.
wearing
Yeah,
a
that's
mask at
true.
all
Yeah,
times.
at the moment fuel is cheaper.
Obviously extra precaution was also expected to be taken, and we were already at the highest level of sanitation possible. Fortunately the decision had already been made to quarantine the passengers, and so they were in a good position as it stood. And this did work. Even since the original quarantine and precautions put into place, we had seen a drop in the number of people requiring medical attention. So this was good. We were getting there. So we continued en route to Fort Lauderdale. I'm not sure how many of you have been following what had been happening on the ships down there, but we did also have 2 ships, the Zaandam and the Rotterdam. They were en route from Panama up to Fort Lauderdale as well. They were a couple of days ahead of us in terms of transit time, and so they were going to get there before us. Lots of news going out, not sure whether they were going to be accepted. Obviously this was additional worries. Everybody on board was saying, oh well, if they can't get in then we can't get in. They had also had tested positive for COVID-19, and unfortunately at that point I believe they'd had several of their guests pass away, which is a terrible thing. And so they were heading up there. They are also in need of medical assistance, of course. We were also getting to the point where the amount of medical attention and assistance and medical care that were needed for these sick patients was getting higher and higher, and so we were definitely in need of some assistance and of some urgent medical supplies.
What were those supplies you needed at that point that you didn't already have?
So there is lots of worries going on. Again, this whole thing of being stranded at sea, it is something that everyone was kind of feeling, but we were just praying and hoping that when we got to the States, when we got to Florida,
71
that
cents
we
per
would be
litre for
allowed
diesel.
to
Wow,
get into port,
even
get the
diesel's
medical
dropped?
assistance that we needed, and allow guests and crew members to disembark
I should fill Steve Van up.
and get home safely. Now, en route, obviously, like I said, medical care was getting to a higher level, and so the company arranged
Fuel is
for
so
us
cheap
to
anymore, we
rendezvous
can't go
with
anywhere.
the
Yeah,
Regal
the
Princess
irony.
in the Bahamas, which is en route, and we were going to meet up with them and get some medical supplies from them, as well as
You needed oxygen.
one doctor
Really?
and 2 nurses, which
Oh,
is
wow.
a very critical thing to have that extra
For a
professional help.
Yeah,
It's
ventilation.
very important, as I'm sure you can understand. So we met up with the Regal Princess just off San Salvador, which is a small island on the east side of the Bahamas. We rendezvoused with them. Operation only took about an hour. They had already collected some medical supplies from our other Princess Cruises ships in order to supply to us as well. So we had a good amount to come, and we got these additional medical staff here to help us as well. That operation was completed quite quickly, quite impressively, and we managed to get away again and heading back again for Fort Lauderdale, still to arrive on the 4th as per our original plan. Now, on the night of the 3rd, when we were en route to Fort Lauderdale, there had already been a lot of question as to whether or not we would be allowed in, even though the Zaandam and Rotterdam had successfully been allowed to go alongside and get the assistance that they required. The reason for this was that the area of Fort Lauderdale and the Port Everglades had already received these 2 ships and had already given a lot of assistance to cruise ships that had come in with potential COVID-19 cases. So they were getting to the point where they didn't want to take any more ships with this problem until they'd at least been able to manage and sort out the ships that were already alongside in port. Thankfully for us,
Also, personal protective equipment and general supplies.
Port of Miami is very close to
Charlotte Rose,
Port Everglades,
diesel
obviously,
locally
and so
for me
they
hasn't come
agreed
down
to
that
take us
cheap.
in
It's on
very last minute
$1.25 at the moment.
and allow us to come
Unless it's
alongside and get the
changed.
urgent medical care that we did need for our sick patients. We proceeded in. This is a very last minute call. The ship has never actually been to Miami before, so we didn't really have any of the information we would normally have ahead of time. And that was a very busy evening for myself and my 3rd officer. We probably had the decision made around 11 p.m. at night. I worked midnight to 4 in the morning, so I spent the whole night firing off emails to agents and our fleet operations centre and trying to make a substantial passage plan and blind pilotage for our arrival the next day.
Cargo ships taking on
Luckily,
paying passengers.
that was all completed,
Wow.
and we did arrive morning of the 4th of April, whilst I was in bed, successfully alongside. Unfortunately, between the time of us leaving the Regal Princess and our arrival in Miami the next morning, we did unfortunately lose 2 of our guests. Both succumbed to the symptoms of COVID-19
Jesus.
and unfortunately died in the early hours of the morning or the evening before we could arrive in Miami. On arrival, we did immediately disembark.
Hey, Alfie, would that be the first time you've encountered a death on board a ship and you had 2 at the same time? Sorry to hear that, man. I'm just wondering how you prepared for that as well.
Quickly disembarked some other guests as well, and that were very sick, and so they were able to get some medical attention that they needed from the local hospitals. So now we're alongside in Miami, and the disembarkation process can hopefully start. CDC were obviously very closely monitoring everything that was happening, and we were having to go through lots of different protocols and confirmations in order to get these guests safely home. For the crew members on board, I feel like there was an overall sense of relief, finally, that they would be able to get these guests home. Obviously, it's been a massive workload to be delivering food to 1,000 people 3 times a day.
Totally.
It's not very easy. It's quite a stressful process, even for the in a normal situation, let alone with all this extra stress going on. Lots of people worried about their families back home and what had been happening. Obviously, all around the world, countries were being closed down, borders were being closed, and so we had no guarantee if we were ever going to get home or if the passengers that we had on board were going to be able to get home as well. Fortunately, on the first day, we did slowly get to start guest disembarkation. We did have lots of sick patients that we did need to go to local hospitals, and so they were going off slowly. There were medical disembarkations. The medical team were flat out organising this and disembarking guests to any local hospital that had the availability. Originally, guests were, if they were healthy, were being allowed to disembark and take their commercial flights home. However, very quickly CDC made the decision that it would not be possible for anybody that had come from the Coral Princess to go onto a commercial flight or any kind of public transport, which is kind of understandable. So what that meant is that Princess Cruises was then going to have to arrange charter flights for every single guest and or crew member
that gets
they were trying to repatriate. Obviously this takes a long time and a lot of money. Originally when we first arrived, we weren't sure how long we were going to be alongside. We were thinking maybe 2 or 3 days, but it became clear that as these more restrictions came in place, it was going to be a much longer process, and we were hoping to get every single one of those guests off the ship prior to leaving the port. Now, we arrived on the 4th, which is actually the same day that I stopped working. So my girlfriend on board, she's American, and she became ill on the 3rd of April. She had very mild symptoms of COVID-19, and so as a precaution she was put into isolation and closely monitored by the medical team. Because of that happening, the decision was also made that despite me having no symptoms, I would also be put into a quarantine. So I would be removed from fellow guests and crew and put into my own cabin under quarantine whilst my condition was monitored, and obviously to keep the rest of my team safe. It's quite important that everyone stays fit and healthy up there, otherwise we're not going to have anyone to drive the ship. So originally I was quarantined in my own cabin, and then very quickly moved into a stateroom, passenger stateroom, where I could undergo a proper quarantine.
I feel you. It was harder because you've been trying to get them off the ship.
To get some fresh air as well. But in the last 8 days, I haven't had any symptoms at all. So I'm very lucky. I've been seen several times by various nurses and medical professionals, and they have each day said that I'm looking good and fit and healthy, which is good to hear. Nice to know. My girlfriend, unfortunately, after a few days, the decision was made that she was fit enough and well enough to travel, and she was disembarked from the ship on the 7th of April.
Fair enough.
She's an American citizen, as I said, so the company were doing their best to try and get everyone home who they thought they could get home. So a charter flight was arranged for passengers and crew, and my girlfriend was with them when they went. So the majority of Americans, both crew and guests, have now been disembarked and sent home. In the coming days we also managed to disembark many British crew members as well. There was another charter flight sent to the United Kingdom, and they have gone and successfully been repatriated home. And over the coming days we managed to get off the vast majority of guests and quite a few crew members as well, and managed to be sent home. 9th of April was the date at which we left Miami. We left with 13 guests remaining on board of several different nationalities, including one American still. I'm not privy to the information that would allow me to know why these guests had to remain on board, but my assumption would be that due to their specific circumstances they were not able to be sent home at this time. So 9th of April we leave Miami and we head to Port Everglades again. We go outside 12 to get some critical discharges. Now obviously we've been alongside for many days, 5 days, so that is a big build-up of grey water on board the ship, so that needs to be discharged. So we went outside the environmental limits and successfully discharged everything. Obviously this whole time I'm in my cabin, so I'm only aware of what's been going on from a distance.
See you tonight on
We arrived at anchor just outside Port Everglades
on
on the next morning, 10th, and the plan then was to stay there for 3 days and also take some more supplies and take on also some extra help. This extra help was coming from the Grand Princess, and they'd already started going through a quarantine process, and so they had people that were experienced in this, and so they sent them on that were obviously clear of COVID-19. They sent them to us to assist us in our future upcoming quarantine process that was going to be required for all the crew on board Coral Princess. I'm aware of at least one, I think, senior doctor joining and some extra help for HR. I'm not sure exactly how many new crew members joined and how many and what departments they were from exactly, but as someone that's been in quarantine now for 8 days, I did definitely see a difference when they joined, and I received several phone calls, and I had extra supplies delivered that were kind of I was doing fine without them, but
it's remarkable you didn't get it,
daily essentials.
Alfie.
So that's definitely been a
Your girlfriend
successful
had it.
step that's
She
been made.
was passing it on.
We have been getting used to
You
all
must
the
have a
change
good
of
immune
plans.
system.
So the next morning when I got up, 8 o'clock, we were leaving the anchorage and we were heading out to sea again. So I was wondering what was going on, because the original plan had been for 3 days at anchor there. Turns out we were going to rendezvous with the Regal Princess yet again. We managed to successfully rendezvous with them yesterday.
This bit's classic. What's this next bit, Alfie? You did some backwards footage here.
They had for us crew members from the Regal, the Emerald, and the Island Princess, and they all came over.
That tender's going backwards.
They're volunteers from those ships that agreed to come onto the Coral to assist us with our quarantine process. Obviously, if we're quarantining crew members, we also need additional to help serve them and to help sanitize the vessel whilst the quarantine is going on. So this process is going to start very soon. We've just picked up these extra crew members, and now they're receiving any necessary training that they need before then going on to the sanitization process and the quarantine process for all the crew on board the Coral Princess. It's been going on for about a month now, and I think we've all come to terms
Charlotte, much respect
with
to you,
what's
Alfie,
happened
and
to
the
us
crew.
and what we've
Thank
had
you
to
for
go
taking
through.
the time to keep us informed.
Obviously, it's awful to be seeing people leaving.
You need
on
to keep
stretchers.
your channel going. You are fascinating. Yeah, totally.
People have just come
This
for
is
a nice
incredible content,
cruise
Alfie.
vacation. This is the world that we're living in at the moment, and I feel quite lucky to have been in, for the majority of it, a safe place and a well-resourced place, let's say. It's been a mix of emotions, I think, for the whole team on board. Lots of people worrying about families back home as well as what's going on board. We've all had to sort of just keep going. I think in the last month, I've probably, since we left Port Stanley, I've probably gone through and signed and helped plan about, I don't know, 20, 30 passage plans, because it's constantly changing every single day. We're seeing it. We get a call and we're saying, now we're going here now. Obviously that can be quite a stressful process, but we've coped well, I feel. And now there's the waiting procedure. It's terrible what's happened on board here on the Coral. We did hopefully take every precaution we could. This is just one hell of a strong virus that's out there and that we've seen spread so quickly around the world. We are now going to the quarantine process, which I believe is absolutely the right step. I think it's a shame that some crew members were disembarked before this happened. The decision was made out of our hands, and so this is the position we're in. But now we have a strong team on board. We have lots of extra help, which is very important, and I'm thankful for. And now we just need to go from here. I should be out of quarantine hopefully in the next couple of days. I will have completed my minimum 10 days. No symptoms at all, which is good. I'm fit and healthy, and hopefully get back to work. I can start helping out and get us through this process. So this brings us to the 12th of April, which is today. The vlog yesterday took about 9 hours to upload, I think, because
I'm
of
going to
the
just pause it
quality
there.
of the internet, as I'm sure you understand on board a ship.
He's wrapping up there, as you can see. I'm going to just pause it at that point, just because we are in a time constraint here on this very stream. Alfie, thank you again, dude, for going ahead and doing this, putting this on YouTube. This is not just important for my viewers to see, but for anybody out there wondering about this from the perspective of a ship. We hear the news reports, we hear the sensationalist news reports. We don't ever hear direct information from someone in the bridge. This is incredible. I put another link to your channel in the chat in case anyone's watching this after the fact and they want to go ahead and watch more of your content, because there are a couple of extra videos after this, which we don't have time to get to today. So if you're watching this and you want to go and see Same Ship, Different Day, see what else there is to learn about, because there's a couple, the quarantine process and whatnot continues. That's the link. Go and cope. I've got 2 C's there, the wrong spelling. That's truncated, that link. Hopefully that link works for you. I didn't truncate that myself. Let me just grab it again, just in case. I'm just going to pop it in the chat again, just in case it didn't work for some reason, because that is a truncated link. I popped it in there manually. Folks, yeah, we're very lucky to have had Alfie to not only create the content, but be here and answer your questions as they came up. I think that's important. I think that's what... Oh, that's truncated as well. Okay, so maybe that just truncates, but you can still click it. Hopefully it's still good. Charlotte Rose, I followed Alfie a while back when it was posted either on yours or Danny's stream, and when you guys named it, everyone should follow it. Great content, yeah. And maybe this will be Alfie being able to create more content more regularly, but I understand if you can't. I get that. I understand how time restraints, and you're a second officer. You know, you've got other things to worry about than trying to create a channel for all of us to watch. But folks, I can hear my outro music rolling right now. This has been a wonderful stream. I'll see you all on D-Live later on. Now I'm going surfing, even though I feel ill. See you next week too on the YouTube stream. Thank you guys.